When we see headlines from Pakistan, they often paint this picture of a single, straightforward conflict. But the reality? Oh, it's so much more complex. It's like this tangled web of violence with so many different sources. So in this explainer, we're going to pull apart those threads to really understand who is fighting, why they're fighting, and ultimately, who's paying the highest price. Let's just start with one number, 901. According to security reports, that's how many people were killed in Pakistan in just 3 months of 2025. And that's not for a whole year, that's a 3-month snapshot. It just immediately shows you the sheer scale and, frankly, the urgency of the violence we're about to unpack. So you gotta ask, where is all this coming from? Well, this surge isn't just random. It's a convergence of different, really troubling trends that are all feeding off of each other, making the whole security situation incredibly volatile. And to really get a grip on this, the first place we have to look, well, it involves the actions of the state itself and the heavy, heavy price being paid by civilians. A huge part of what's driving this violence is actually linked to the state, where official security operations and crackdowns on dissent, well, they often have absolutely lethal consequences for ordinary people. I mean, just look at this stark contrast from the recent unrest in Pakistan-administered Kashmir. The official reports claimed a total of 4 casualties, but media and activists right there on the ground, they were reporting at least 12 civilians killed. That huge gap between the official story and what people are actually experiencing, it shows just how hard it is to grasp the true human cost of what's going on. And this isn't some isolated incident. Sources point to a much broader pattern of state action. We're talking military offenses in Balochistan, drone strikes that have reportedly killed civilians. The footprint is wide. And then you have the crisis of enforced disappearances, a staggering 8,400 cases reported since 2011. It's a tactic often used against activists, a fact tragically highlighted by the recent abduction of Mahrang Baloch. And listen to this quote from a protester. It just captures this raw, powerful sense of betrayal that people are feeling on the ground. But look, the state isn't the only actor here, not by a long shot. Civilians are also getting caught in the brutal crossfire of powerful non-state militant groups. So, on the other side of the coin, you have this second major threat, and it comes from a whole range of armed, militant, and separatist groups that are operating across the country. The data here is just jaw-dropping. We see a 46% jump in militant violence in just 1 quarter, a nearly 50% increase. This comes on the heels of a year that already saw over 1,600 deaths. And here's the crucial point, the real kicker. Sources show that 60% of those killed were civilians, just people caught squarely in the middle of it all. So who are these groups? Well, security reports point to 2 main players driving a lot of this violence. The Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP, which is an Islamist insurgent group up in the northwest, and the Baloch Liberation Army, the BLA, a separatist group down in the south. Okay, so we have state action and we have militant groups. But to really understand why this stuff just keeps happening year after year, we've got to dig a little deeper into the history behind these conflicts. You see, to really get what's happening today, you have to rewind the clock. A lot of these conflicts, they're not new at all. They're rooted in these deep ethnic and sectarian fault lines that go back decades, some of them all the way back to the very founding of the nation. Let's take the Rawalpindi massacres of 1947, for example. This was one of the first major dominoes to fall in the partition-related violence in Punjab. After political collapse, armed mobs went after Hindu and Sikh communities. The violence was systematic, it was brutal, and historians now see it as a really tragic, early example of ethnic cleansing that set a truly horrific precedent. And the thing is, this isn't just some dusty history lesson. Those same cracks in the foundation, the same sectarian fault lines that opened up way back in 1947, they never really healed, and they keep erupting into violence even today. I mean, look at what's been happening in the Kuram district just recently. In late 2024, renewed fighting between Sunni and Shia groups left at least 32 people dead in a single weekend. Then, in a separate attack, gunmen ambushed convoys of Shia pilgrims, killing over 40. Local reports are suggesting something like 150 people have been killed in this regional conflict in just the last few months. So you've got state violence, you've got militant violence, and you have these deep historical sectarian conflicts. What's the thread that ties it all together? What allows these horrific cycles to just continue decade after decade? So why does this violence persist? It doesn't matter if it's from the state, from militants, or from sectarian mobs. Well, according to human rights groups, the answer really boils down to one thing: a systemic, long-standing failure of justice. And that one thing is a word you hear a lot in these contexts: impunity. So what does that really mean? It's a simple but absolutely chilling idea that people can commit horrific acts of violence and simply get away with it. They face no punishment, no consequences, no accountability.
And this is how that vicious cycle keeps spinning. The failure to bring anyone to justice back in 1947, that set a terrible precedent. Today, you see that exact same pattern when security forces are rarely held accountable for their abuses. It all creates this culture where violence isn't just tolerated, it's almost implicitly enabled.
So we're left with this massive question, right? We've seen violence from the state, violence from militants, violence from these old, deep-seated conflicts, and it's all fueled by this culture where justice is the exception, not the rule. And it really forces you to ask, when you have a cycle this deeply entrenched, what on earth does it actually take to break it?